This week, we continue our countdown to this summer's MCU film, Fantastic Four: First Steps, crossing over with Kumar and Jordan's Comic Book Movie Oblivion podcast. Leading into talking about Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, which we'll do next week, in this show, we'll be talking about the comic story that provided the outline for the movie's story, the Galactus Trilogy in Fantastic Four 48 through 50 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. We'll also take a quick glance at Reed and Sue's wedding in Fantastic Four Annual 3 in 1965. First, I'd like to thank our patrons for helping to keep the show going. You can pitch in by pledging at least $2 a month at patreon.com/deconcomics. This is Tim.
This is Kumar.
This is Jordan.
And this is Deconstructing Comics and Comic Book Movie Oblivion. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics. This is Tim in Tokyo. Once again, crossing over with Comic Book Movie Oblivion. Kumar and Jordan are here. Hello.
Hi, Tim.
Hello.
And we're talking about the next Fantastic Four movie in the sequence, the 2007 Rise of the Silver Surfer. So let's dig in.
All right. So the issues we've got, we actually had trouble choosing some comics, although it should be obvious that Fantastic Four 48, 49, and 50, the Galactus saga, should have been the core, which it was. Mm-hmm. I also threw in the annual number 3, which is the wedding issue, which we don't have to talk about much about.
So actually,
there's some relevance to the film because we have a wedding sequence in the film.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
But I'm reading Wikipedia. I saw that this film also draws from Fantastic Four 57 through 60, where Doom steals Surfer's power, and from Ultimate Marvel's series Ultimate Extinction. I guess some of the things like Reed's speech to the general when he says, like, I was a good nerd and did my homework. That's, like, I guess, straight out of Ultimate Extinction, which I haven't read. But
General, give us a 1-mile perimeter.
Forget it, Richards. You had your shot, and you blew it. This is a military operation now, so jam the signal, get out of the way, and let us do our job.
You don't understand.
No, you don't understand. So let me make it clear for you and your pack of freaks here. I'm the quarterback. You're on my team. Got it? But I guess you never played football in high school. Did you, Richards?
No, you're right. I didn't. I stayed in and studied like a good little nerd. And 15 years later, I'm one of the greatest minds of the 21st century. I'm engaged to the hottest girl on the planet. And the big jock who played quarterback in high school, well, he's standing right in front of me asking me for my help. And I say he's not going to get a damn thing unless he does exactly what I tell him and starts treating my friends and me with some respect.
Give him what he wants.
I'm so hot for you right now.
Me too. I read Ultimate Extinction not long ago for my sins, and I went back to it. And you're right, Tim. It's almost word for word from. It's a conversation that Reed Richards has with Nick Fury.
Right, and they had originally planned to put Nick Fury in this movie.
Oh, that's right.
But
yes.
They didn't want to have to pay for the rights to the character.
They didn't want to have to pay for anything for this movie, I think.
Marvel didn't really want to sell the rights either, so...
Right.
That's right. That's right.
So they put Captain Holt in there instead.
I looked it up, yeah. As I understand it, when they reached out to Marvel Studios, Marvel let them know, one mentat to another, that the price would be too high for them to get it. It would have been easy to pick the issues if we'd done our research first, because as Tim points out, we've got interviews with the screenwriter Don Payne, who has gone on to write a number of other Marvel movies. He wrote Thor and Thor 2: The Dark World.
Oh yeah, those are both stinkers.
Yeah, that's right.
Especially Dark World.
And he also, before this, wrote My Super Ex-Girlfriend, which I think is just almost a comic book movie.
Okay, yeah.
So he pretty much straight up says, quote, "The movie draws from the first appearance of the Silver Surfer in Fantastic Four 48-50, which we read. But we're also using story elements from 57 to 60, as Tim pointed out, where the Silver Surfer encounters Doctor Doom. There are a couple of moments inspired. Inspired is, I would say lifted. I wonder if Warren Ellis, who wrote Ultimate Extinction, I wonder if he got paid.
So I will say I read the Doom issues anyway before I heard about any of this, just for kicks.
Well, that's good. Among the three of us, then, we've got it all covered.
Yeah, we do have it covered, so we'll get back around to that. But I will say that DC, the way they do it is they tend to actually write a check. If some idea is used in the movie, they will write a check of some amount. I don't know how they determine, but they will pay
$47.20.
Yeah, but they'll pay anybody that they took one little idea from. I'm not sure that that's how it works at Marvel. I've never heard anybody at Marvel say, I got a check from Marvel because they used my one line in this movie. But you do hear those stories about people that worked on DC books.
They'll put their names in the credits. I don't know how much they get paid in those.
Well, they put their special thanks names are in there, often misspelled. You will often hear that, but anyway,
such a sleazy outfit, isn't it?
Yes. Oh. Yes. So the wedding issue I only threw in because I did know the wedding was in the movie.
Yep. No, it's good that you put it in because there's a point. There is a specific gag that makes it into the film.
There is a gag, which is that Stan and Jack try to show up at the wedding in the final pages. It's a great issue, actually. It's what you want from superhero comic. Dr. Doom.
We can skip ahead and we can start talking about the wedding one then. Let's start talking about it.
Okay, I didn't have time to read it, so go ahead, you guys.
It's really cool. Like, they're trying to get married, and it's just being constantly interrupted by every single villain in the Rogues Gallery.
Yeah, because Dr. Doom has released a ray called the...
Emotion Manipulator Ray or something.
Emotion Charger. He says, with this emotion charger, I can fan the flames of hatred in the heart of every evil menace in existence. So it only seeks out evil people. And all of every Fantastic Four villain, including some I've never heard of, like the Human Top. Who's that? All pile onto this wedding to try to kill the Fantastic Four.
It's so great. And of course, because the guest list includes all the heroes from Marvel as well. So all the heroes are foiling all the
X-Men are there. The Avengers are there. It's a huge, 20-page, just a huge fight. Daredevil's there, Captain America, everybody shows up. Spider-Man shows up. They're all fighting each other. It's just nonstop panel-to-panel, absolute superhero shenanigans. But meanwhile, Alicia and Sue, of course, have been left back at the Baxter Building. Yeah. And the Fantastic Three are trying to keep the villains from reaching the building. This is like their big...
They can't disrupt Sue's special day.
Yeah. And she's in her wedding gown. But
she does throw down with the Red Ghost.
Yes, the Red Ghost. And his baboons.
I've never heard of before, but he's got trained monkeys.
Yeah. Yeah.
The super
horrifying trained monkey, which they don't seem to be super powered. They seem to be just regular trained monkeys.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just there's brilliant lines like, and then the orangutan grabbed Reed's arm and things.
Yes.
Like that. It's just so I really loved this comic.
Yeah.
And then it's got a classic Kirby ending where I think everything's resolved by the Watcher showing up.
The Watcher shows up and he's like, look, I'm going to go back in time and wipe everybody's memories. And then he literally says the line, this shall never be spoken of again.
Yeah, well, he doesn't. The Watcher himself doesn't do it. He takes Reed through the fourth dimension, which is a photograph. So they've put a photograph in the comic.
It's a Kirby montage, yeah.
Right. And then he brings him into a room with all these gadgets, and then he says, well, I can't tell you what you need to do because I can't interfere.
Yeah.
And so Reed just has to wander around looking at stuff. And then he says, I think I'll use this one. And the Watcher's like, whoa, that one's so powerful. Yeah. And that's the Deus Ex Machina, or it's more of a Machina Ex Deo that resolves the the comic, and everyone's memories are reset. Incidentally, Kumar, the Emotion Machine seems to target specific villains because one of them is targeted at Namor, but he's not present because he's having an adventure somewhere else, and it hits some other characters I'd never heard of. Another undersea king with an army of fishmen.
Yeah.
Well, why should there only be one? It's a big ocean, so...
Also, the Hulk's not there because he's off somewhere else too.
That's right. Yes.
Some other
Hulk
comic
doesn't celebrate weddings with puny humans.
By the way, Puppet Master shows up at the wedding, and he's got a puppet of one of the guests, and he's going to manipulate it to attack the Fantastic Four yet again. And he gets taken down by S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, Nick Fury's outside, and they're running security at this wedding. And I'm like, okay, why didn't you make a puppet of Nick Fury or the Fantastic Four themselves?
Well, he's not himself. He's being manipulated by the Ray. And also, his plan is so dumb. This guy has poison on his hand.
Yeah.
The person he's mind controlling, and is going to shake hands with the Thing and poison him. You can't poison the Thing by shaking his hand. He's made of rocks.
Mm-hmm. I see questions about that. It ends with of course, the kiss. The wedding ends with the kiss. And there's a caption which says, "No mere words of ours can truly describe the tenderness of this moment, so we won't even try." But he did try. The caption is right there. And that's when Stan and Jack show up, and they're turned away at the door.
Wearing top
we
hats.
just see their backs with their top hats on.
Yeah, we just see their backs.
Oh, yeah, we don't see their faces.
But it's not the first time that they were in Fantastic Four. I think there were earlier issues where they had showed up at Marvel's offices and tried to fix the stories they were writing about them and stuff like that.
I think Stan tells Nick Fury to go gargle a grenade, which is a pretty good line.
Yes.
Also, Kumar, there's I'm sure I don't need to remind you that there's an homage to this scene in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill show up at the end in top hats.
That's right.
And are denied entry and then get sent out into space, where O'Neill asks, "What happens now?" And Moore replies, "Basically, you die. I claim I created everything, and I get walk-ins on all the spin-offs."
Okay, well, yep, that says it all about the wedding issue, I think. Okay, so now we get to the meat of the matter. So this is Fantastic Four 48 through 50, known as the Galactus Saga. Starts with tying up a storyline with the Inhumans that we don't really need to talk about. Except, something I did notice about it was that Johnny is a monogamous guy who is deeply in love with Crystal.
Of the Inhumans, right.
Of the Inhumans at this point in time. And the Thing is the one who is making jokes all the time. Every panel is kind of deflecting with humor. Which is not what the movies are like.
No,
that's true. And it's not really what the early issues we were reading are either. So there's been a change, I guess, in there. Yeah. But it's specifically his, we were sort of reading the tail end of a love story there.
Yes.
With Crystal. Unrequited love. She gets locked in the Inhuman City. Yeah. In a negative zone or something. Some kind of nonsense.
Maximus puts a dome around. Actually, It was fun. It was funny because last summer I watched the '90s Fantastic Four cartoon, and they did a version of that story of the Inhumans and blocking Crystal and Johnny from each other, and then they also did the Galactus Saga on that show.
Cool. Well, anyway, that story winds up, and then we see the Silver Surfer surfing in a very crowded kind of like interstellar space. Yeah,
and we get a caption which says, "A being whom we shall call the Silver Surfer for want of a better name." This is retconned within 2 panels because the Skrulls call him Silver Surfer. He calls himself Silver Surfer. Galactus calls him Silver Surfer. Everybody calls him Silver Surfer. So it's not who we... And in fact, 2 years after this issue comes out, he's completely retconned, basically. He's given an origin which conflicts with a lot of the details we're given in these 3 issues. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Well, speaking of pettifogging, nitpicking, incidentally, you mentioned the Skrulls. We have a scene on their homeworld, which the captions tell us is in the fifth quadrant
of the Andromeda Galaxy. The 5th quadrant, I wondered about that too, Tim.
The mysterious 5th quadrant.
I wonder if it was... I actually thought about it for a long time. Like, I was like, was that on purpose to make it sound like really more fantastical? Like, on
I don't
purpose,
even want to think about it that hard.
or was it just? Did
I don't
Stan
think
really
Stan
not
Lee
know
thought
what
about it that
I
hard.
think the
So
Stan just maybe didn't put two and two together, two and three together.
2 and 3 together. Yeah.
Very good. All right, so then
So the Skrulls are worried that the Surfer is approaching because they're like, well, wherever the Surfer goes, Galactus follows, and we're doomed. So we got to make sure he doesn't find us.
yeah, they turn off everything in the entire solar system.
Yeah.
Everything's got to be turned off. They turn off all the lights and everything so that the Surfer won't see them, know they're inhabited. Who knows?
Yeah. So meanwhile, the Fantastic Four are coming back to New York from the Inhuman City, and the entire sky seems to be on fire. And Johnny flies out to try to figure this out because he's the fire expert. The crowds are in a complete panic. Great Jack Kirby drawings of people just freaking out in the streets, just dozens of people with the sky on fire, and they think it's got to be the storm that's causing the torch that's causing this.
Yeah.
Because he's the fire guy.
Yeah.
They're trying to put him out with like a fire hose. Then there's an amazing sequence where the thing actually jumps out of like the fantastic bike or car.
Fantastic car. Well, yeah, this is more of a
and free falls to the ground.
more of a fantastic bike,
Johnny.
yeah, because it doesn't look like a bathtub.
No, it's not the car. They do call it a. He says a cycle.
Okay.
Reed does call it a cycle, but there's also a great panel here where they have a very long conversation while Ben is in midair, and he's talking about why he's jumped out of the thing. Anyway, Reed wants to get back to the lab and study why the sky was on fire.
Yeah, that's a good question. Why was the sky on fire? But now pretty soon it's on rocks or it's full of rocks, right?
Yeah, pretty soon. Back at the Baxter building, Sue is very annoyed that Reed's not like taking her out to dinner or thinking about her. He's just locked up in his lab.
He's too busy trying to figure out why the goddamn sky was on fire.
Why was it? Yes.
Why
Even
taking me
Mrs.
out
Reed
for
Richards
dinner?
might like to be taken out to dinner once in a while. She says.
Well, and I felt like this attitude of Sue was a little too notable in the movie. Where Sue in the movie is like, "Oh, Reed, you're so worried about all this world-saving stuff when you should be thinking about our wedding."
Mm-hmm.
Yep. In that case, it's straight from the comic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Straight out of the comic.
60s comics don't always translate well into 90s movies or 2000s. I guess 2000s
Yeah. Well, we'll
movies.
talk about the movie. When we get to it. I have things to say about that business.
Okay.
But now, so the fire turns to rocks in the sky. Nobody blames the Thing for this. But you'd think that would be, and you'd think there'd be a third one where the sky was all stretchy like Velcro or something, or spandex or something. Anyway.
Or if it turned invisible.
Yes, or the sky turned invisible. But then the Watcher shows up, and he's this. I guess we should explain who the Watcher is if people don't know. He's this being, a celestial being that's not supposed to interfere.
Right.
He's just supposed to observe events.
Except he interferes constantly.
But so far, he only interferes. There was
But he
even
talks a lot about how he's not meant to.
Yes. Yes.
He's
There was
interfering, but
this
he's
wasn't
really
an
angry at
episode of
himself.
Doctor Who once. I think it was like the Cybermen. I remember this conversation with Cybermen saying the Time Lords are not supposed to interfere, and the other one says this one does nothing but interfere.
Yep.
Yeah, well, somebody just standing
he
and
announces
watching
that-
stuff happening isn't a good story, so.
He was behind the flaming sky and the rocks in the sky because he's some kind of, I forget what he calls it. It's like a matter simulator or something.
Matter mobilizer.
Oh, I was close. And he's trying to hide the planet Earth by turning it into a big fireball. And then now with the rocks, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, because people were too panicked by the fire, so he changed it to rocks.
That's it, yeah.
Nobody would care if there are rocks in
so
the
much
sky.
more reassuring if the sky is turned into rocks.
I would be freaking out for sure and blaming the Thing. The Thing must have done it. So the Silver Surfer just flies through the rocks to see what's down here, and sure enough, it's this big planet that's perfect for Galactus. Yep. So Johnny and he lands conveniently right on top of the Baxter building. Everybody comes up. in the whole planet Earth. He shows up at the Baxter Building. They climb up there, but he shoots this beam out into space, which is a signal to Galactus, who we're going to learn about. The Thing and Johnny tried to fight him off. He actually gets knocked off the building by the Thing, and we don't see him again for a little while. But it's too late because he's signaled Galactus, and the ship appears out of the sky. We get another Kirby collage where he's used photos to create the ship and the cityscape.
Yeah.
And this being comes down, and it's this giant alien. He's maybe... Well, this is interesting because...
At this point, he's only about twice as tall as a regular person.
I noticed that. He's not as big as he is nowadays.
Okay. Yeah, Watcher says he is what he wishes to be.
Right.
So I guess that means he can change his size.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing to me is, in my mind, he was gigantic, like bigger than a skyscraper.
Yeah.
That's my memory of these issues.
Huh.
Because Kirby just makes these are small panels. These are like 6 panels a page, but everything is massive, like conceptually massive. In your memory, it's bigger than it actually was, or at least in my memory, it was bigger than it actually was. The riots are huge. The fire in the sky is huge. Everything is. This is tremendous. Like the story behind these issues is that Stan Lee gave Jack the assignment, the Fantastic Four fight God, and then Jack went away and came back with this story. So it felt like, in my memory, I was like, oh yeah, he's gigantic. And sure enough, he was in later issues, but even my memory of these issues was he was really gigantic. He's not. He's actually maybe twice as tall, and then later he seems to be about 20 feet tall or something like that.
Well, he's slightly taller than the Watcher, and the Watcher also is a kind of about 8, like about 10 feet tall.
That's right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And they spend the Watcher and Galactus spend quite a lot of time just kind of chatting.
Yes. By the way, so another thing about his costume, it's a bit like Darkseid's. He's wearing a skirt, and he's also got a big G on his chest.
Well, and did you notice in 48 on that big panel of him, the coloring of his suit is different from in the subsequent issues, and also different from nowadays, where it's much brighter. But yeah, in 48, it's like red and green and brown. It looks weird.
Yeah, and if you read the current reprints, they've recolored his legs, so he's wearing pants.
That figures.
Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah.
Galactus doesn't wear pants.
Yeah, absolutely not. He's like Darkseid. He wears a skirt. He wears a kilt. Yeah. Space kilt. So Galactus is this planet eater. So how this system works is Silver Surfer is a herald. He searches the universe for planets with enough energy that Galactus can feed on. Galactus comes down to the planet. He builds machinery to suck the energy out of the planet, convert it into energy that he can consume, and he hungers. He needs us to stay alive. He doesn't want to kill people.
Well, that's debatable.
He says
he's indifferent.
He says, it is not my intention to injure any living being, but I must replenish my energy. If petty creatures are wiped out when I drain a planet, it is regrettable but unavoidable.
Yeah, he's indifferent because people are like bugs to him.
Well, as is said again and again and again, we're like insects, we're like bugs, we're like ants.
Yes, in fact, the word bugs, fleas, mosquitoes, gnats, ants.
Yeah. Anthills. Yep.
There are way too many insect comparisons.
It's just hammered in. And in fact, at one point, he even drops a bug bomb.
Yes, that's right.
On the thing.
Yeah, I think Reed calls it like a bug bomb. But I will say he does. I mean, he seems to know what ants are. He knows what gnats are.
Well, nobody talks in, in metaphors here. Everyone just explicitly talks about Earth life and Earth concepts when they're aliens.
Why should you know what ants are?
Yeah, he's always talking about anthills or...
But you know what always seems strange to me about Galactus is that if he's supposedly a force of nature, why does he have to have equipment? Why doesn't he just touch the planet and sap out the energy?
Well, he's not a force of nature yet. At this point, his origins are mysterious. I think it's eventually... He's been given lots of different origins over the years.
Well, and also something I noticed was that the discussion in these comics is that previously he was eating dead worlds,
That's
and
right.
now
Yes,
he's
that's right.
eating a live one.
This
But I
is
think
the first one.
nowadays they're always live, or else they're not nutritious for him.
Yeah, well, they haven't quite sussed out the. Well, I mean, a big question here is what does Galactus eat? Because it's not. I mean, we know he eats planets.
It's energy. He converts
Yes, but-
oceans and things into a kind of energy that he consumes.
It's not
This is-
clear why he needs to eat planets. Because if he needs to turn mass into energy, I mean, the universe is full of mass. It's everywhere, and I mean, the Silver Surfer can just. Like he just touches stuff, and he doesn't have to be
He thinks the idea of eating. He's never heard of eating before, and he's like, "What is this?" And he just kind of beams his hands, and he melts like all the cutlery and everything on the table, and consumes that as energy.
Right, when he's at Alicia's house, yeah.
If he needed, he could have eaten Jupiter if he needed a lot of material, or the sun.
Well, but there's nothing alive on Jupiter, though. I mean, that's not the thinking in these issues, but.
But the previous worlds he ate were dead.
Right.
I mean, it says he needs to consume elemental energy, I think, at one point.
Yeah.
The elemental energy of the planet. What is that?
Well, that's made up.
Exactly. So the thing is, he's just a prick that needs to eat your planet. And that's that's scary. I think it's retconned later on to that he needs to consume worlds with
even 2 years later, 1968, when we get the origin of the Silver Surfer, he is there to consume Norrin Radd's planet, and then Norrin Radd Surfer, get it? It's very good. Although it wasn't Jack Kirby, actually, it was Buscema on that one. But anyway, Norrin Radd's planet was going to be consumed, and he was a humanoid guy. He was just completely human-looking guy. And he was going to eat this planet, and Galactus was like, and Norrin Radd said, "No, spare the planet. Take me. I will be your herald. I will find planets for you to eat." And then Galactus turns him into this being, the Silver Surfer, and then he goes out on the surfboard. Now, this contradicts a lot of stuff we see. There's in one of these issues, Silver Surfer says, "I've never seen a race this close up before."
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't
was one
understand
of those.
emotions.
He was in love with this woman named Shalabal.
Yeah.
And she was the one that he was really protecting back on his planet. So that's contradicted. Also in this issue, in this storyline, at the end of it, Silver Surfer turns on Galactus finally after. I love the idea that we never know how long it's been going on, but it really, to me, feels very Jack Kirby cosmic, like it could be 50,000 years that he has been a herald of Galactus. Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
But he turns on him, and Galactus doesn't know how much power he has, which is odd because he gave him the power.
Well, has he given him the power at this point?
No, well, we don't know at this point in continuity, no, but at point of retcon,
he does
2 years
remove his
later.
powers at the end of the third issue. And which makes me wonder why he was fighting him for most of that issue, because he could just take his powers away at any time.
Well, okay, well, we'll talk about the way Galactus operates a little bit as we go through, because there's other flip flops.
We should really try and restrict ourselves to these 3 issues, because Galactus has been Galactus has been chopping and changing all the time
for 60 years.
Yeah. Well, I'm only going one issue. I'm really only going to the next Galactus story almost. Anyway, so also by huge coincidence, Silver Surfer crash landed in Alicia's apartment.
That's
of all the places on Earth.
That's Ben Grimm's
when he got
blind
knocked
girlfriend.
off the building, he got knocked across town and ended up there. And she senses something noble about him. And I want to say a couple things. Silver Surfer, to me, second best visual Marvel character. I love the pure.
He looks
sleek. Cool. Just pure silver.
He looks like an Oscar statue if the Oscar statues were silver.
Yeah.
And he's very 60s in the sense that he's very zen.
Yes, this is the other thing I love about him.
And he's a surfer.
Yes.
Oh, and he surfs too. He's like
60s surfer.
He's like some guy that's taken up studying Buddhism and is just hitting the waves and living the dream.
Yeah, he's very.
He also has a part-time job where he finds planets for you to eat.
He's very different from all the other Marvel characters to that point. Alicia immediately senses something noble about him in his voice.
Yep.
And he reveals, "I'm here to destroy this planet for Galactus." So Galactus is going to destroy this planet. She's like, "How can you let that happen?"
But he doesn't care because he's so divorced from...
Exactly. He has no emotion.
From emotions.
He's never, quote-unquote, seen people, any race. He's never seen living life, it seems like.
He finds the idea of eating absurd, and when Alicia lays out some food for him, he just sort of holds his hands over it. Ray beams shoot out, and he assimilates the energy directly. He says, why do you bother eating? Why do you bother consuming energy in this fashion when it's so much simpler to convert it completely into energy?
He's never heard of eating, which surely he would have done when he was human.
Oh, of course.
Right.
So at the moment, he's just like a wild. Anyway, so I've written in my notes, Silver Surfer has morning tea with Alicia and learns to love.
Yep. This happens gradually.
Coming up, The Punisher. No, not that one. And some listener mail. By the way, don't forget to check us out on Blue Sky. We're at Decon Comics. This podcast is part of the Deconstructing Comics Network, where we're grateful to our supporters on Patreon. Patrons get exclusive extra content. At $2 a month and up, hear Bat Bits, a Batman 66 exploration with my brother Paul. At $4 a month, you also get our new monthly show Silver Age Batman, where I discuss Batman comics from the 50s and 60s with either Paul, Patrick, Emmett, or Kumar, as well as our previous series on Jim Starlin's run on Captain Marvel and the first 50 issues of Amazing Spider-Man by Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, and John Romita. Check it out at patreon.com/deconcomics. And thanks for your support.
Who's Who, the definitive podcast of the DC Universe.
Spanning from the first issue of Who's Who in 1985 all the way through the loose leaf edition.
Including all the updates, the spin-offs, custom Who's Who pages for forgotten characters, and tons of in-depth character spotlights.
Entries span from the golden age of DC
and into the extreme 1990s.
Covering characters such as Superman by Kurt Swan and John Byrne.
The Justice League by Kevin Maguire.
Batman by Dick Giordano.
The New Titans by Tom Grummett.
Wonder Woman by George Perez.
The Legion of Superheroes by Keith Giffen.
The Flash by Carmine Infantino.
Lobo by Simon Bisley.
The All-Star Squadron by Jerry Ordway.
Firestorm by Al Milgrom.
Aquaman by Chuck Patton.
So many entries talking about Ian Karkull.
The Forever People again, and again, and again.
And hundreds of other characters found in Who's Who, the definitive podcast of the DC Universe.
Available wherever you find podcasts and at fireandwaterpodcast.com.
Nuclear Man, Batman, Hawkman, 2D Man, and Hour Man. Who are all these people, man? They're all part of the DC Who's Who.
But meanwhile, back at the Baxter Building, all this machinery is flying around, which Galactus is like floating in air. Again, these are great, like amazing images, because now it's like it looks like CG. You know what I mean? It's like in your mind what CG is when you're a kid. You're
no one draws big, cool machines like Kirby does.
Yes.
It really does look cool, and Galactus is pulling them down out of the air.
Yeah,
it's rad. Anyway, so the thing's smashing up his machine, slowing him down. But there's this sense of futility about it because they've been trying to stop Galactus, and you just can't.
I want you to, hold on to that thought as well, because I think it really is futile for the Fantastic Four to fight Galactus, and it proves to be true by the end of these issues. They really have no hope against this thing.
They can only slow him down.
Yeah. And
so everyone's sort of having a go at slowing him down. The Silver Surfer eventually is inspired because Alicia is just so nice. She convinces him that it's worth saving life on Earth. He goes and confronts Galactus. Galactus is like, well, I got to eat. A god's got to eat. Yeah. And the Silver Surfer's like, why don't you eat someone else? He's like, I'm here already. And also, who cares about a bunch of ants?
Yeah.
Yeah. And his argument reminded me, on one of my other podcasts, Patrick and I are talking about Parasite, which is kind of a similar point. So humans eat other animals. So
yes, Galactus says that too, doesn't he?
Yeah. So why doesn't?
How did he know that?
How does he know that?
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
He's a smart guy. Yeah, but he specifically says ants. You're like stepping. You wouldn't hesitate to step on an anthill on the way to doing something that's important to you. So just why can't you just get on board with me eating your planet? Just chill out. Well, anyway, the Surfer's just so impressed by Alicia that he fights Galactus. Meanwhile, exactly like the wedding, the Watcher says someone's going to have to go through the fourth dimension and get a machine. And it's
First he shows them he projects a vision on a wall. He makes this kind of view screen on a wall and shows them what happens when Galactus consumes a planet.
Yeah.
I just want to bear that in mind for when we get to the movie. This is done in the most ridiculous way in the movie with belly cam. But anyway.
Yeah, he's a Teletubby.
I've got tummy television, yeah.
Yeah. So he describes how bad this is going to be. So we talked about Alicia's trying to convince the surfer.
By the way, I have to mention that Galactus sends this creature against the Fantastic Four, and the creature is called the Punisher.
The Punisher. A squat little, he's like a dwarf-sized robot. He's very stocky. And the description is, this is the Punisher, a compact, supremely merciless, hardcore mass of mayhem from the very outer rim of the known universe.
And no skull on his uniform.
No skull, but I absolutely love this little dude. He's about 30 feet tall and just destroys.
And then, it's funny, like, Galactus just lets him destroy just long enough, and then he sends him back, because he lives in Galactus' ship. Like, Galactus just keeps him around.
Yes.
It's like his pet dog or something.
Later on, I need to talk about two other Marvel characters who have the same name, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.
Good.
So as you said, the Watcher says, okay, there is a way to solve this. I can't interfere, but I can tell you what to do. And he sends Johnny to, like, the center of infinity, like through time and space.
He says it's Galactus. It's where Galactus is from.
Yes.
And it's sort of like a big space station.
Yeah.
Not particularly impressive. But Johnny acts like it's the most incredible thing he's ever seen.
Well, it's not just the place. It's all the dimensions he passed through and all this stuff.
And only Johnny can do it because he can avoid the bands of anti-life.
That's right. So I guess like Doctor Strange couldn't have done it, or
Reed Richards couldn't do, like Reed Richards does in the wedding issue.
Yeah.
I think the reason the station doesn't look impressive enough is that in comparison, Johnny is too big.
Right, yeah.
Because people would have to crawl through those tubes. They wouldn't be able to stand upright if they were.
Is off.
Yeah.
Good point.
But it is a Mobius strip kind of thing where, like, it's not... The physics are kind of weird of it, the shape of it.
Uh-huh.
Well, again, he needs to grab a machine, like Reed did in the wedding issue, and it's some sort of machine that Galactus is scared of.
Yeah.
For some reason. I don't really remember why. So Johnny manages to bring it back to Earth. He points it at Galactus. Galactus says,
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
But first, the surfer turns, which the Watcher is worried about. He's like, "This is going to destroy my plan." I'm not sure quite how that played out, but anyway. So,
well, it's because of drama, because of stakes. Oh no! Everything they got to ramp it up every page. Oh my God, the Punished.
It's the cliffhanger of the 49th issue. So, I wasn't expecting Silver Surfer to change alliances. This could screw up everything.
Yes.
Just so you'll buy the next issue.
Yeah, I don't think it does screw up everything.
No, of course not.
They start shooting beams. Surfer and Galactus are shooting beams at each other like crazy. The Fantastic Four basically can't do anything. This is a key point. They can't do anything against a god.
And it's true in the movie, too.
It is true in the movie, too. And it's true in... Well, when we get to the end of the
issue... We'll find out how they deal with it in the upcoming movie, the Marvel movie that's coming up.
Yes.
But yeah, so Johnny shows up with the apparatus. He points
at the ultimate nullifier, I think it's called.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And Galactus says, okay, please don't use that. It can destroy the universe.
Yeah.
So actually, if you just put that down, I'll leave. And the Watcher says, you got to accept this because Galactus never lies.
Right.
If he says he's going to do a thing, he'll do it. Okay, fine. So Galactus packs up, but the final thing he does before he leaves is strip the Silver Surfer of the power cosmic, which is what they pretentiously always call his superpowers. The power cosmic. Anyway, which I guess he could have, as I said earlier, they could have done at any time during their fight. So the whole point of that fight is kind of moot. And then it just kind of ends.
Okay, wait. So I want to talk about the ultimate nullifier. As soon as Reed gets it, the Watcher's like, whoa, be careful with that. If you put it to full power, it could destroy the solar system in a microsecond. And then Reed threatens Galactus with it. And he says, you have to put it down. Your feeble mind cannot comprehend its power. You could destroy a galaxy you could lay waste to the universe. And Reed says, and should the universe crumble, can Galactus survive it? So Reed's threat is, I will destroy all life on Earth, including you, if you don't stop from destroying all life.
Actually, I think he was threatening to destroy the universe.
Yes, exactly.
Not just life on Earth.
What if Galactus had said, what if Galactus had called his bluff? If Galactus called his bluff and Reed said, okay, I'm not going to do it, Galactus would have killed all life on Earth. So either way, all life on Earth dies.
Well, right? I mean, Reed Richards was threatening him with the destruction of the entirety of reality, it seems like. So, I mean, yeah, if Galactus had called his bluff, well, I mean, what's Reed Richards got to lose? I mean, he's going to die anyway. Why not kill everyone in the universe? Huh. What a monster he would have been if he'd done that. Not that anyone would have remembered, because the universe would be gone.
Actually, now that I think of it, the FF in the comic have more to do with Galactus leaving than the FF in the movie.
This is true.
Because there's no ultimate nullifier in the movie.
No. But this is a crazy solution, but it points to the fact that the Fantastic Four, a guy that can stretch, a guy that's strong, and a guy that can light on fire, and a woman that can turn invisible is not enough to defeat this guy that's going to eat the planet.
Right, so the logic of the nullifier.
No, they need the watch.
There's a fundamental
scaring him away
structural problem.
Yeah. So the FF can stop him, but not in a way that stands up to reason. He's like, huh?
Yeah, and so
why?
When you get to, like, when you read the graphic novel that came out, Ultimate Cosmic Experience, it basically retells this story, the first half of it, but the Fantastic Four aren't in it. It's just like Galactus arrives on Earth and Surfer turns on him and they fight, but there's no Fantastic Four. And then when you get to Parable, which was the one drawn by Mobius in the 80s, it basically retells the story, but there's no Fantastic Four in it. It's just Silver Surfer versus Galactus. And it almost makes more sense because, I mean, this is real core Kirby stuff. Gods, the value of human life, in the face of godhood, faced with these kind of gigantic things and fate and the universe and all that stuff. What is one human life worth? What is all these human lives, even if they're terrible people, even if they eat animals, et cetera, et cetera? That's all. I mean, Tim can speak to this even more than I can. That seems to me to be very key Kirby stuff. You take the Fantastic Four out of it, it almost works even better.
Yeah, I mean, Kirby loves doing comics about gods. But yeah, I mean, you'd think the only heroes who could really do something about Galactus would be like Phoenix or somebody of that power level. But yeah, the Fantastic Four or most of the heroes can't really.
Yeah. Well, you can't even the Surfer can't beat Galactus.
Yeah.
You can only deal with him in another way. You know, I mean, the resolution.
Yeah, in fact, the device came from his own base. He owned the thing which could kill himself.
Yeah, it's not a very. I agree. It's not a very satisfying resolution. But I mean, as far as Galactus is irresistible. Like it's like the Fantastic Four versus God. He can't be overcome by force. It doesn't matter if it's the Fantastic Four or if it's anybody. Instead, the comic has to be, I mean, to work, the comic has to be about something more than that, as you said. It has to be about the human spirit.
Right.
Or the indomitable will of a singular individual like the Surfer.
Yeah.
Or something. And that's kind of more like what Parable is about. This one, it just kind of, we need a Deus Ex Machina again. We'll just drag this magic bauble out of somewhere or other.
Yes. Thanks to the Watcher, it wasn't even like the Fantastic Four figured out where this thing was. It's the Watcher's like, hey, I know where this thing is. I'll send you there. I'll tell you exactly where to get it.
The guy who's not supposed to interfere interferes, and that makes it.
Oh, he's interfering constantly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a conflict between these. Because the Watcher is a kind of god himself, really. I mean, it's specifically stated that he's at least as powerful as Galactus, but he's constrained by, or his power is nearly on the same level as Galactus's, but he's less powerful because he's constrained by his species morality, which is to only observe.
Yeah, by Watcher rules.
Yeah, and it's almost like, it's really, the conflict is between them.
Yeah.
And the Silver Surfer, the Fantastic Four, the human race, they're kind of just watching who's going to win. The guy that says you should step on ants or the guy that says you should watch them.
Yeah.
Tricky.
So at the end, Silver Surfer is basically trapped on Earth. Like he can't, right. As you mentioned. That comes into play with the Doctor Doom storyline 10 issues later, where Surfer's just roaming around the Earth, and he happens to fly through Latveria. Doom spots him and sends him an invitation to come visit him at his castle. It's really hilarious. He tries to act like he's a really merciful leader to his people, but he gets bumped into by this guy in the lab, and the guy is terrified for his life. And Doom's like, "I'm gonna kill this guy." And he's like, "Oh, Surfer's here," and he's like, "Why would I harm you, bitter fellow?"
That sounds right.
And but then he traps him with this device, which he somehow had ready, even though Surfer was just coincidentally passing through Latveria. But he traps him with this device, and he steals the board, so he has the cosmic energy. And then at the end, he's kind of, after the 4th issue, he's tricked into flying off into space, but that knocks him off the board because the power is actually limited to the Earth by Galactus. So that separates his connection to the board. So that's how that storyline resolves.
This story is really only 2 issues because 48, it's only like the second half of the issue after they wrap up the Inhumans. And then in 50, it was like page 10 and it's all over, page 12, and then they go into all this other stuff. And
then they start
Johnny starting college. And I mean, it's really serialized storytelling.
Very much so.
It's not neatly wrapped in here. These issues are all Fantastic Four against Galactus.
Yeah,
but Galactus is a cool concept, so he's come back again and again.
Absolutely, of course.
Oh yeah, of course.
He's such a massive
this is where it started, and it's rough. It's definitely rough around the edges with him just sort of hanging out and chatting a lot of the time.
It is a little bit, but again, as I said, it lives large in my mind. It kind of implanted itself in my brain in a way that you feel how massive it is.
Fair, but Kumar, this wouldn't have been your very first exposure to Galactus?
No, absolutely not. No, I don't remember where I would have. I would have read one of the John Byrne issues first. I think there must have been a Galactus one in there somewhere that I read.
I think there was. It's been a long time, but
yeah.
So he just lives large in all our imaginations because he's been just looming over the world in so many stories and properties and stuff. Well, speaking of looming over the world, like a cloud.
Yes.
Let's.
Should we talk about? Okay, before we get right into the movie, I do have 2 letters to read. About the first one. So I got a letter from Todd Gray, and he said, "Hey guys, love the podcast. Keep up the great work. Thank you." The message was, "I'm listening to your Fantastic Four 2005 episode, and I recall an interview with Chiklis when the main cast attended an AFL game. When interviewed, Chiklis did say that he wanted the suit. Specifically, he noted that he wanted the audience to see his eyes, realize when performing. I don't know why I remember this, but I do."
Excellent.
And should, just to be clear, you're talking about Michael Chiklis, who plays the Thing.
Yes.
Yep.
And the second letter I have is from Tim, which is Victor. And this is funny. When I found this letter this week, I was like, I don't remember any of these things about this movie that I watched 2 months ago. Victor's comment about getting rid of Reed's bodyguard is before he goes to the coffee shop and talks to Ben. Afterwards, he says, 1 down, 3 to go. I don't remember any of that.
We did have a short but spirited discussion about where that was in the continuity of the.
Here we go. As far as
we're the only people that remember that, Tim.
Yeah. As far as whether he adds energy to or subtracts energy from the machine when Thing is being changed back to Ben, it seems to be kind of both. Power meters show that the machine doesn't have enough power, so he opens it up, sticks his hand in, and zaps it. The power meters go up, so he must have been adding something, but afterwards, he seems to be much more charged up with energy. He mentions it in dialogue, and he also flings Ben across the room. Yeah. So once again, for this movie, the answer is unclear.
Yeah, it's a very loose storytelling in that film.
And there's another thing I wanted to bring up, which is as soon as we recorded that, I saw this video by Jason Pargan, who is a cracked writer. And he said he was talking about superhero movies in general, but it spoke very much to something Jordan brought up last time. He said, the whole fantasy of superheroes is that we have someone with superhuman abilities who will protect us from the bad guys. So in old Superman comics, he's always stopping a bunch of diamond thieves. And when I picture Spider-Man in action, I'm picturing him stopping a bank robbery. And then every once in a while, they run into a supervillain or supercriminal who has some sort of scheme to make money or gain power. But now look at the villains in the MCU. The very first film, Iron Man, the bad guy is one of Tony Stark's co-workers. Next movie is Incredible Hulk. The villain is the U.S. military. Next movie, Iron Man 2, another of Tony Stark's colleagues. In Thor, the villain is Thor's brother. Do you see the weird pattern here? They're not out fighting criminals and they're not trying to fight off some external threat or some threat to our way of life. It's always some internal squabble. For the Avengers movie, they fought Thor's brother again, and this continues with not many exceptions. In Iron Man 3, they're fighting another of Tony Stark's former colleagues.
Yeah, in Avengers, they fight a robot made by one of the Avengers.
So that was, we
Ultron.
did talk
That's
about
a good point.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
That is a characteristic of the MCU. And that what makes it different from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies, where Spider-Man is often, we do see him fighting crime. But no one in the MCU fights crime.
Yeah.
That's true.
And the first Fantastic Four movie, they were, as you mentioned, they're fighting Doctor Doom, who's not threatening the city. He's only threatening the Fantastic Four.
Yes.
And the crowds are cheering for the Fantastic Four.
Even though they don't have a dog in that fight.
That's right.
Well, well observed. And we'll see if that carries on for this film, shall we?
Yes.
The comics we talked about in this episode can be found in Volume 3 of the Essential Marvel Fantastic Four collection, published by Marvel. At deconstructingcomics.com, you can connect to us on X, Facebook, YouTube, and Blue Sky, and find links to subscribe to the podcast. You can comment on any episode on our site, drop us a line at mail@deconstructingcomics.com, or talk to us. Click the Leave a Voicemail link on the left sidebar of our site. Are you making a comic? Send it to us and we'll do a Critiquing Comics episode about it. Our theme is by J.B. Anderton. The music backing the promotion of our Patreon is Change by Jazar. Next week, Kumar, Jordan, and I get straight into talking about Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer from 2007. Till then, this is Tim, and thanks for listening to Deconstructing Comics.